David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with another fountain pen review. I have said this many times, but one of the things I really enjoy about this hobby is making new discoveries, and the focus of today's review is just that. It's a pen from a fairly new company that I was introduced to at the DC show a couple of months ago, and that company is Maverick Pens. What I'm going to do today is talk a little bit about this fledgling company, discuss what I care for and what I don't care for about this colorful offering of theirs in my possession, show some measurements, size comparisons, and provide a writing sample. Thanks go out to Maverick Pens for providing the pen you will see today for review. The folks behind the Maverick are the husband and wife team of John and Abby Lewis. Here they are at the DC show. John served in the Air Force for a dozen years as a pararescue man, and after he concluded his service, he began to pursue his passion for lathe-turning pens and other handcrafted goods. And then Abby joined in for the fun as well. Abby is the one creating and pouring unique custom resins, and John is crafting the blanks into pens. Here are some examples of their pens and resin. This one here is called the Pastel Prism. This model here has a very unique finial. I've never seen anything quite like that before. I think that uniqueness is an issue for small creators. There are a lot of companies making bespoke pens and a lot of companies pouring custom resin that look very similar. It's tough for a company to stand out and make a name for themselves, to be known for something, to have that differentiator. And while many of their custom blanks look nice, the one that made into the pen that I have to share with you today, I feel is that differentiator for Maverick. The pen is called the Marauder, and the material is called the Stratified. It arrives in this rickshaw sleeve, and inside we have a pen. This is the Maverick Marauder in Stratified. Side note, the mascot for the high school I attended was the Marauder, the Mira Mesa Marauders. Okay, a side note to the side note. While they were building my school, they were building another one about 15 miles away called Sarah High School. The colors for Mira Mesa were blue and gold, and the colors for Sarah were brown and gold. And I guess they were using the same contractors, and the company installing the carpets got things mixed up and installed the incorrect carpet throughout each school. So in Mira Mesa, we had brown and gold carpet, and Sarah had blue and gold. I'm sure that over time that error has been rectified. Also, recently Sarah High School changed their name to Canyon Hills and changed their colors to red and black, but I won't derail this review further to go into the reasons for that. So let's talk about this pen. As I mentioned previously, it's made from a custom resin called Stratified. Each batch of stratified material takes over a month to make. That's because the layers of this aluminite resin aren't simply poured on top of one another. The colors would then significantly mix more. For the stratified, each layer is poured and then needed to cure and harden completely before the subsequent layer is added. Some layers are multicolored and mixed, and other layers are more solid. The combination is attention-grabbing, and the end result isn't a blank like you would be used to seeing. It's more of a block. It's a solid block of resin. This block is then cut down into slices, which in turn then become more traditional square blanks. The effect is really cool and certainly unique. Okay, let's go over the parts and features of this colorful offering. The top of the cap is flat. It is inlaid with a pewter coin with the company logo. The cap is straight. This is a clipless pen. I feel that that was a good decision. I think that keeping this clipless better shows off the colorful resin. There is a small step down from the cap to the barrel. The barrel is also straight, and like the top of the cap, the end of the barrel is flat, but minus the large coin. The cap twists off with 2 full rotations, and underneath we have a number 6 JoWo stainless steel nib. I believe this model is only available with a medium nib, but if you have a favorite JoWo number 6 nib unit, it should fit in here just fine with this pen. And here's a look at the plastic feed. The section is a bit on the medium side, but the material helps it look a little bit longer than it really is. It has a bit of an extended flare before angling back up until you reach the threads in a medium-sized step up to the remainder of the barrel. I find the Marauder to be comfortable in the hand. It is a fairly light pen overall. It's long enough to use unposted, which is a good thing because the cap is not designed to post. This is a cartridge converter pen. As virtually with all pens utilizing a JoWo nib, it will accept standard international cartridges and a converter is provided. With the lack of metal internals on this pen and with the barrel being one solid piece of resin with the appropriate amount of silicone grease and precautions, then eyedropping in theory should be just fine. The Maverick Marauder Stratified is available exclusively on the Maverick Pens website. I'll put a link to it in the notes below. The retail price for this pen is $400. Now, the standard offerings from Maverick are typically in the $200 to $275 range. While $400 is a bit on the high end for bespoke pens of this nature, between the effort necessary to create this resin and the limited quantities in which it is produced and the uniqueness of this creation, then I can understand why this specific model sells at a bit of a premium. As I mentioned, there is a link to their site in the notes below, and I would encourage you to check out this pen as well as their other offerings. They had some interesting Halloween theme pens made from resins that they recently created as well that look nice. Okay, now it is time for some measurements, size comparisons, and since this is a very colorful pen, I have a writing sample with an appropriately colorful ink. Okay, here we have a closer look at the Maverick Marauder Stratified. I wanted to give you another closer look at that material and how it just varies from layer to layer to layer, but yet the contrast works. And to have them as one solid piece as opposed to something that is affixed together, it just makes for a more solid and well-balanced pen. So, in regard to some size comparisons, I thought I would compare some other unique pens from individual makers. We have something from the Mad Science Pen Company. Then we have something with stripes. This would be from Wet n Wise. This is their Albert. And then here is something from Rockster with the Burled Maple, which I just enjoy, which is a maple that's been infused with resin and then dyed and just has a really unique coloring to it. Then here we have an offering from Hello Studio, and then a micarta pen from Skogsy. And then finally, here is something from the Carolina Pen Company. This is a material called California Sunset. If you want to see, if you want to see a video about how Jonathan and I actually created this resin, it's one of the more popular videos on my channel. If you search for Jonathan Brooks in there, that you'll be able to find it, but you can see exactly how we made this material. And when I say we, it means that basically I came up with the idea and then he let me stir a couple of things. It's kind of like one of those things where you have a younger sibling playing video games with them, and you give them a controller that isn't even plugged in to make them think they're playing. Yeah, that was my contribution to making this resin. So it was virtually all Jonathan. But he does a really great job of it, and that video does a really good job of giving you an insight of how resin is created from scratch and how one of the best artisans out there today accomplishes his work. In regard to uncapped comparisons, here it is with that, I believe it's the Charleston model from the Carolina Pen Company. And then there it is with the one from Rockster. And then here it is with the Wet n Wise. Okay, here we go with the writing sample for the Maverick. And this is the Marauder. Stratified. This is a medium stainless steel nib. And as I mentioned, since this is a very colorful pen, I feel I needed a colorful ink. And this would be Cala Neon Purple. This is what the ink looks like. It's just a nice, vibrant purple. I actually looked to see if you could still purchase this. They came out with a whole line of neon colors, and I couldn't find them anywhere, at least in my initial searching through some retailers. But this is one of the other ones. This was a neon violet, and then this was the neon pink. This is what the bottles look like. They all kind of had a little 70s saying on them and things like that. This one says Boogie, and you can see that this is the neon purple, but that's what the ink looks like. Okay, here we go with the rest of the writing sample. I think that this nice bright ink looks great coming out of this pen. It needs something special coming out of it. It's a standard Jova nib, so you're not going to get a ton of flex out of here. But I will say the ink flow is fairly generous in regard to reverse writing. It's a little bit on the weak side, but in regard to some fast writing, the feed keeps up very well. So there we have the Maverick Marauder Stratified. As I mentioned up top, it can be a challenge for artisan makers to have something that's unique and different and something that sets them apart. And I think this material definitely does for Maverick because it was definitely eye-catching for me and something that I wanted to check out. So like I mentioned before, there'll be a link in the notes below, and I'd encourage you to check out their site as well as some of their other offerings on there as well. Until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.